like I was saying, was just at the Nordique,
Yeah.
and it was packed, man. It's like it's now
Oh, yeah.
$90
Oh yeah, and then you're
to
gonna
get
pay
in.
extra if you want to go downstairs, and then you load $300 onto your bracelet, and suddenly that just disappears once you get enough drinks. Like,
What a great business, man.
oh, they must be just raking it in. But look at the renos that they've done, right? Like, you're not gonna build it up that much unless you're making bank.
Well, listen, I don't know how many people were there today, but let's say there was 200
Yeah,
at $90
Yeah.
a pop.
yeah,
That's close to $19,000 in revenue.
yeah. That's if you assume nobody's bought any drinks anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And then I mean, you could do some major renos with that type of daily income.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, it's a good spot. It's fun to go there and relax. So, my business partner for this podcast studio, Jer, was in town. So, yeah.
There you go. Why not?
Welcome to the studio, man. So
Yeah, gorgeous studio. Like I said before, this is
Yeah.
second level. Yeah.
Did you have a chance to look at some of our content from before?
No, not from before. I won't
No?
lie, but
Okay.
I did check out the links that you had sent me.
Okay.
So
Right on. Yeah. So we've evolved like over the years. When I started, it was when I left Remax. It was just me and my buddy Chris.
yeah,
We bought some equipment on Amazon.
yeah.
We started recording. It was a French podcast about drinking beer.
Okay.
And the first episode, it's just us trying to figure out the equipment. So, we
Yeah.
started from humble beginnings. And then eventually I ran into Jeremy. And he came to our office. He gave us a nice little setup. And then that transitioned into a more professional studio where I've got like the octagons in my background. And then we have this studio here that's like fully automated. You just walk in, you press start, everything turns on, the cameras all turn on, and the mics are on, and then he does all the edits. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. Like I've done a couple other podcasts and like same thing. Like we show up and then I like help the guy set up his sound and like cables here and cables there. Like this is just sit down, start. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my biggest hurdle when I was doing podcasting on my own. Is like it takes me like 45 minutes to set up,
Yeah.
and then like 30 minutes to take it down, and then I got to do the edits myself, and then I have some episodes that would sit on my hard drive for like months on end.
Yeah.
But now it's all automated. It gets posted.
Oh, this
Even without-
makes so much sense. This
Yeah,
place
yeah,
is
yeah.
unreal.
It's pretty cool. So listen, man, thanks for accepting my invite.
Of course. Thanks for
Come.
thinking of me and reaching out.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about why it is that I reached out to you.
Yeah.
I guess we'll get into that later in
Later,
the
yeah.
episode. Today we've got a few topics that we want to cover. I think that there's a huge correlation in between fitness and success
Absolutely.
in the entrepreneurial world. And you're a trainer, an entrepreneur also. And, I recently went on this little fitness journey, and I can tell you, that there's a difference in my energy, there's a difference in my attitude, and there's a difference in my results and in my bank account.
Of course.
It's crazy. Then the reason why we reached out to you is because of the whole lockdown situation, and I was introduced to you by some of your viral videos.
Yeah.
So, man, you were on the map for a while there with
It
those
was
videos.
some weird infamy. It was something else. I did only what I figured was right,
Yeah,
and
man.
just did that. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
And then I got some wild attention for
So
that.
we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And we'll see where the conversation goes. But I mean, let's start off with the correlation between fitness and success in the entrepreneurial world. I recently went through the 75 Hard program.
Yes, I know exactly what that is.
And it was always like important for me to go to the gym. Like I would get to the gym like 4 or 5 times a week. So I've never been like a couch potato, but like the 75 Hard, what it did is like it forced me to do 2 workouts every single day. It forced me to watch what I eat. So you decide your own diet program on the 75 Hard.
Yeah.
We did intermittent fasting, feeding window between noon and 8,
Yeah.
and no pasta, no bread,
Okay.
and no booze.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and then I think it's like a gallon of water you got to do a day on
1
there too.
gallon.
Yeah.
So like that's like 8 piss breaks every single day.
Yeah, but you gotta get used to it too, though. Like once your body's used to consuming that water, like it gets better.
Yeah, it gets slightly better, I guess so. But
But yeah, those first 2 weeks are ridiculous.
yeah, it's ridiculous. And like I'm showing properties, I'm evaluating homes, and
Yeah.
it's like
Go take
there's-
a look at the house, guys. I'll be right
yeah,
here.
yeah. Sometimes there's places where you can borrow the bathroom, but like if you're visiting a property and you don't know the client, it's kind of
Yeah.
awkward. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, bathroom break, right from the get go. I've had a few of those awkward requests, but yeah, man, the 75 hard. Maybe Jared can post some photos from my day number 1 to my day number 75. I went from a pant size 40 to 34.
What did you initially want to get out of it? Like, why did you do it in the beginning?
I was bloated. I look at the photo. I'll show you after. And my energy level was off. My sleeping was off.
Yeah.
I would always drink like, 1, 2, 3 glasses of wine every single night.
Yeah.
The nights that I wasn't drinking were rarer than the nights that I was drinking. I wasn't binge drinking.
Nope.
I did that at a wedding not too long ago before the 75 hard. My hangovers are just freaking insane, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm 38 years old. Before I could go out and drink like a fish.
Yep.
26, 27.
Yep. I was invincible then.
Yeah, it's fine. But now it's just like it's no longer the same. And just reset my relationship with alcohol,
Good.
with food,
Yeah.
and with like working out.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone at 8 a.m. every single day. I said I need to follow up with 4 to 5 prospects.
Yeah.
I was making those calls. My listing inventory went from like 3 listings to 15 listings. My sales grew. My recruiting grew for my company. I also own EXP Realty.
Yeah.
We're up to 64 agents now.
Wow.
And
Good for
like,
you, man.
just a more magnetic personality. I mean, I don't know if that's the case, but I feel like I'm more approachable.
Yeah.
Before, maybe I looked like I was grouchy.
Well, you were permanently trying to detox booze every day. Like, yeah, of
So,
course.
yeah, maybe I won't approach him, but like maybe there's just more of magnetic energy now, and I just wanted to get a trainer in here and see if they've experienced that with themselves or with other of their clients.
Of course. I've seen it with clients. I've seen it with lots of people. And I think it boils down to, I love quotes. I love the one-liners. I love that kind of stuff. And so like, I believe that the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything.
Yeah.
And I also think that, or the quote is we are what we repeatedly do, and therefore greatness is not an act, but a habit. Mm-hmm. And so I think the good thing with 75 hard, or the good thing with getting yourself a trainer, or any habits that you're getting onto, or meal prep. Yeah, it feels like you've got to make the same chicken and rice for 7 days of the week. Mm-hmm. But it is, you are getting into a habit. And I think it is that like constant repetition of good habits that put you into that same mind frame that, I got to drink a gallon of water a day, but I also have to follow up on 4 leads every day. Mm-hmm. It's whatever you do every day will be who you are. It's like brushing your teeth. You brush your teeth because you know it's going to give you a whiter smile. You don't wake up one morning and you're like, okay, well, it didn't work. I know I brushed last night, but I guess I'll brush next Monday. It's the same as going to the gym. Like going to the gym twice a week is good. That's better than if you're not doing anything. But it's going to be an everyday habit. If you want to cover the most ground, then do it every day. You want to get your smile whiter, brush your teeth every day.
Yeah.
And so it is, like I said, I think it's that we are what we repeatedly do. And so if you do a habit enough, you start to become whatever that thing is. And so if you're doing 75 hard, then you start to become pretty hard. Habits
are such a powerful thing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want more sales in business, if you want more coaching clients in the gym, I mean, try to find somebody that is doing what you want to do. Look at their habits and emulate them.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, it's like when I look at other real estate agents where I'm like, okay, well, they really got this going on really well. Then I look at their day-to-day. I'll maybe call them up and I'll say, hey, what are you doing that's making you so successful? And then they'll say one thing, well, I try to do this every single day. It's like, oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
If I want to have that level of success, I need to incorporate this into my daily routine
Yeah.
and now make it a habit. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think you need to make sure that you take the stuff that is, I'm going to say, relevant to you, and give away some of the stuff that isn't too. That there are a lot of people out there who are really eager to give you like unsolicited advice in fitness. Hey man, I did keto. You should totally do keto. Hey, I do fasting. You should totally do fasting. And all of those things will work for the people that they work for, but there is no cookie cutter answer.
That's so true.
So if you're like, oh, this person said I need to do fasting, and this person said I need to do like keto, and this person says carb cycling, and I need to do this, and you try to do them all at once, you're going to burn out. That's going to be too much, and you'll overwhelm yourself. And so yes, I agree that you need to take the things from those people that you look up to. And I definitely, I would never take advice from somebody who has nothing that I want. And so,
it's like you could look at hockey players like Ovechkin and Crosby, both very successful, but very different players.
yeah.
You know,
There's a whole bunch of different roads to whatever you describe success as, and I think success is going to be dependent on what you picture that as too. Like there's some people who have no interest in real estate whatsoever, and they don't care how you got really good at real estate because that's not their thing. But whatever that thing is that interests you, that is your bag, then then look at other people in that field and go towards whatever you are drawn towards.
At the foundation, are there things that people can do to become healthier that you see that they're often messing up?
Sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep. Most people, it's sleep.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that happens generally, or at least with the people that I've encountered, is that it's really easy to overcomplicate it. Because there's a million Instagram videos and there are influencers who are saying you need to do this and you need to do that. And there is an influx of information. And now that social media is what it is, it's everywhere. It's nonstop. It keeps coming at you. And so you just need somebody to just sit you down and be like, you're just going to work on your sleep this week. You're going to ignore all the rest. I don't even care if you're not getting water in. We'll worry about that next week. And then next week, okay, now I'm going to get you to drink 2 liters of water a day. Then it's going to be 2.5 liters of water a day. And it's the same in real estate or business or whatever. You're going to build on your successes. And you're like, okay, well, you know what? Water was really easy for me. Okay, good. Then let's pair a habit up with something that you're good at. So you know what? You're really good at drinking water. Then okay, every time you drink water, I want you to put a scoop of greens in there. Or I want you to sit down and have your meal then. Or I want you to, I don't know, sit down and journal. Or I want you to sit down and meditate. Or I want you to piggyback whatever your good habit is onto another good habit that you're already good on. Build on your successes.
So at the foundation, if somebody's like really messed up, things aren't really going well, fitness-wise, energy level, you'd say that sleep and water are probably like the most important things?
I think those are probably the lowest hanging fruit as well. That like you don't need a wealth of knowledge. You don't need to like read a million books. You probably don't need to like hire somebody to show you how to drink water. Like you might need somebody to show you how to work on that hip that really hurts for you.
Yeah.
I think that's really low hanging fruit. And I think that is a linchpin for a lot of people. Yes, moving around is important. Yes, eating healthy is important. All those things are important, but like sleep and water are first.
Like the low hanging fruit idea is like it's easy to do. And I think that it gives you the momentum to go and to like do other stuff. Yeah. Like when you're working out and you're eating well, you go into the gym and it's like, fuck, it's fun. Yeah. It's like, I can't wait to get my workout in, you know? Yeah. But if you try to go and do like a 800 calorie workout, you know, after you haven't worked out in 3 years, like, I mean, there could be some serious problems there.
And same with food too. Yeah. If you've gone from eating, I'll call it haphazardly, and then you're like, oh, I need to eat 1,800 calories today, or that's what I'm going to follow. Okay, well, you follow that really well for like a solid 2 weeks, and then your friends are in town, or you've got a family dinner or whatever, and then you just cut loose. I'm going to say 98% of people that like you try and go too hard, too fast, and you work up to it. It's any of those athletes that you watch and idolize, or any of those Instagram people who have those great bodies or whatever you want to call it. They're like, they started somewhere, and like those first few weeks, it was going to the gym. You didn't really feel like you knew what you were doing, and you gotta admit that you got to start at the bottom, and you need to, as cheesy as it sounds, is respect the process.
Yeah.
But no, at the
Like,
foundation of it's habits. It's the same thing. It's just
yeah, and
doing
we can look at the C-bum and say like, okay, well, he's like in great shape, but he doesn't look like that all the time. You know?
Exactly. You have off seasons and on seasons, same as I'm sure you have like busy seasons in real estate
Yeah.
and slow seasons. Like, and yes, life fluctuates. You'll have stressful things happen. Maybe you have a loved one pass away. Maybe you have some vacation you want to take. And I think if you're a top level athlete, then maybe you sacrifice some of those things, but there needs to be balance like anything. If your goal is really like, I want to have a 6-pack and I want to like squat 1,000 pounds and I want to do that, and you're ready to like not focus on everything else, sure, go ahead and do that. But if you have other important things in your life, then it's okay to make those important too, but make them for real important, you know, like.
Yeah. And take care of the foundational stuff.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Because I think between the ears matters too. I think your mental state, I think that was one of the things I overlooked very early on in my career as a personal trainer, was that I started out in like the anatomy and physiology of it. Here's how a knee works, here how a shoulders work, how does metabolism work, how does how do your body like metabolize carbohydrates, proteins, fats, that kind of stuff. All of that is useless if the person you're trying to help won't follow whatever that plan is.
Yeah.
And so I think for a lot of people that like, it might be writing it down, journaling it. How did I feel today? What am I trying to do tomorrow? What's my plan for the week? Put it into reality and then follow that plan.
Of course.
Because motivation disappears really quickly. It comes and goes. Like you either have it or you don't. But like the people who are successful are the people who work hard on the bad days, right? Like you'd never get anything done if you only worked hard on the days that felt good.
Yeah, I like to remind myself that if I get the work I'm supposed to do in on the days that I don't feel like working, that's like 10x the results. Because those are the days that I normally would not go and do those actions.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, okay, I really don't feel like making those 5 calls, but okay, just get up, go for like a 5-minute walk, like a fast pace, crank some tunes for 5 minutes, and then you're getting on the phone. You're bringing some good energy.
Yeah.
Like those are 5 calls that would have been a deficit because you would not have made them, you know? So now it's like you're multiplying your results because you're keeping up with your habits. So yeah, I agree with that. And I'd say like the 75 hard, I come back to the 75 hard thing. And
Yeah, it's because it was important to you.
Yeah, I know it's just a challenge, but there's lots of ways to get into shape. We had this list of, okay, our diet plan is going to be fasting window from 8 p.m. to 12, feeding from 12 to 8, no bread, no pasta, no alcohol, and then we had no cheese on there. And then my girlfriend looked at me, she says, don't you think we should like maybe leave the cheese on there? Don't you think there's a higher chance that we'll continue with the program if like we don't like, try to be like monks for like 75 days? So we put the cheese back on the meal plan.
Yeah.
And like it was nice to have like a piece of cheese once in a while, you know? But we didn't make it so difficult that it would set ourselves up for failure.
Of course.
Yeah, and I think that in sales and in entrepreneurial work, a lot of sales agents, they come into the real estate industry and they're like, okay, I'm going to prospect and I'm going to make 100 calls every single day. It's like, bro, you could probably do that for like a day or 2.
Yeah.
But then you're going to mess up and then you'll feel like a failure.
Exactly.
So why don't you say to yourself, I'm going to make 4 prospecting calls every single day, and I'm never going to miss a day.
And then you make it 5 prospecting calls and then 6 prospecting calls or 7 reps or 8 reps or 9 reps in the gym. It's the same thing. Absolutely. It overlaps perfectly because I think that the gym is just a small sample of what life is. And I don't know that a poem's the right word, but there was an article written in my youth of bodybuilding, and at the end it says that you can go to the gym and that 200 pounds is always 200 pounds. That you can go in on a good day, you can go in on a bad day, and like the weight is always going to give it to you straight. It's a 1-to-1 relationship. You push hard against it, it push hard against you. It doesn't lie to you, it doesn't cheat on you, it doesn't steal from you. And it is this, I don't know, to me at least, it was this perfect little bubble of like the way that I felt that life should work. That if I work hard, it works hard against me. I push, it pushes back against me. And I think that's how we grow, is that like and it is the quote I have like written on my chest.
What is that?
And
What does it say?
it says, the impediment to action advances action, and so what stands in the way becomes the way.
Huh. Yeah.
Right? And like you look at like physics, right? Like for every force there's an equal opposite force. And so same thing. If I want to become stronger, then I need something strong to push against. And so I think a dumbbell is a perfect example of that. Same as, okay, well, if I want to be better in business, then I need something to push against. And if that dumbbell is 200 pounds and it's your first day in the gym, it's going to crush you. And so if it's your first time in a real estate and you're like, I'm going to sell 20 houses this year, that like, maybe that's a little too much in what you should take on. And so I think it needs to be appropriate, and same as that equal and opposite force. And so it has to be pretty similar to what you're used to doing, but just a little bit more. So yeah, so 75 hard, man, if taking out cheese was going to be enough that it was going to throw it all to the wind, then leave the cheese in.
Yeah.
Like I've had lots of clients. Actually, I had a girl, I wrote out a diet for her, and she had been training for a little while, and she's like, hey, I want to like take it the final bit, but like, I really love chocolate. Okay, no problem. So look, we're going to make chocolate fit into your meal plan. And she would have 2 little squares of chocolate every day of the week.
Yeah.
And that kept her on the program, and it worked really well. Whereas if it's like no chocolate, no nothing, it's gone, there's a very small percentage of people who are, I'm going to say, crazy enough to be able to stick to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you become like your own tyrant, and you're like,
yeah, exactly. How dare I have that be? And then you start to feel guilty for it. And then it turns into this mental thing that, like I said, is probably the bigger game anyways.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But yeah, you need an appropriate challenge. And I think that a good personal trainer, because I think there's some bad ones out there, that I think a good personal trainer is somebody who's going to understand you better than you understand yourself. And they're going to set out a challenge that is challenging, but is not going to crush you. You shouldn't be sore 6 days a week. You shouldn't be like not able to get up off the toilet, but at the same time, they shouldn't be like your friend and you just like laugh about how the week went and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think a good personal trainer is somebody who finds what that like equal or almost equal and opposite forces to put in front of you. And then I'm just going to put the gauntlet down and you come push against it. And so I think in business or maybe in entrepreneurship that you need to do that for yourself a little bit more.
Yeah.
Or I mean, on the off chance you might have a business partner, somebody's like, well, I dare you to open a business or I dare you to do whatever. But that's it, is that like you need to be able to do that to yourself is, okay, well, I'm going to set a goal for myself. And it's important to set realistic goals. I think everybody knows that. But it's really easy to say, but it's often really hard to figure out what realistic is.
There's a good course by Jim, Jim Rome?
I do.
Yeah, so there's a 4-hour class. It's available on YouTube. A lot of this good stuff is available for free, man.
100%.
Yeah. Like,
Mom, like I tell a lot of people, like, you don't pay me for the hour that I spend in front of you. You pay me for the hundreds of hours of like information that I've consumed. And then I'm just going to distill that out for you.
And the accountability.
Oh, of course. Oh, listen, I once had a guy tell me, like, thank God that you charge so much per hour, because if you charged me only $40 an hour, I would blow off sessions more often.
Yeah. So when I coach agents, it's like they'll set up their week and they know that they've got their weekly call with me. Mm-hmm. And then 2 days before they have their call with me, they're like, oh, fuck. Like, I need to fulfill my calls. I need to, like, get on the ball. Yeah. And if they didn't have that accountability checkup with me, then they just would be to the wind.
Oh, it is a really touching feeling is the right word for it, that I'll have people who are like, I was out with my friends, but I ate really well at dinner because I didn't want to let you down.
Yeah.
I was like, let me down. Like, oh, like I'm not even holding the fork. Like at the end of the day, like I'm not the one who's going to wear the weight of whatever you eat in excess or not. Like I deeply care about your success because I have that in me. I love to take care of people around me, but they're like, I didn't want to let you down. And I'm like, me? Like, it seems like when I do stuff, like I don't want to let myself down. And I realize now, it took me many years as a personal trainer to realize that that's a really rare thing. And that like,
yeah, man,
a lot of people do much better to have somebody to feel accountable to. And like, So Zach, I didn't want to let you down. I said no to drinks and I just went home at 9 p.m. because I like I said, I just wanted to stick to the plan that we have. I'm like, awesome. I can't believe it's an honor to be that important to people that like they don't want to let me down. It's a really
Yeah, bro.
Cool job that I have.
It's super important.
Yeah.
I mean, people need to, like when I did the 75 hard, so bringing this up again, like the fact that I was doing it with my girlfriend, like I wasn't going to let her down.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
she didn't want to let me down. So that's how we finished the program, was together. And hiring a coach, hiring a trainer
Yeah.
is getting that buddy system
Yeah.
accountable. So yeah.
And
I think that's worth a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're going to call the person that you idolize in whatever your industry is and try and soak up information from them. Well, then hire yourself a personal trainer and soak up as much information from them. And that's what I tell every one of my clients, is that like when we're done training together, whenever that feels like that is the time that you're a fledgling and you can go off and do your thing, then like you should feel like you understand that stuff. Like I hope that you take knowledge from me. Like I'm not
Yeah.
just here to count reps. Like anybody can count to 10 and tell you like, okay, your squat could be a little deeper, but like I would like to teach a fisherman how to fish so that you can have some of that to keep with you everywhere you go. It should
Yeah.
it should be
They
it should be
grow.
education. Yeah.
They grow from there.
Yeah.
And to wrap up on this topic, like if you're an entrepreneur out there and you're struggling, I think that your fitness is priority number one. If you're not in the shape that you should be, I think that getting into shape, if you're 290 and you should be 220, like try to get to 270,
100%.
Because that's
Get to
gonna help.
285.
That's going to help you with your sales. It's going to help
Exactly.
you with your energy. It's going to help you with everything. And
Even if you're not an entrepreneur and you're going to be hired and you put down like avid gym goer, that means like you're probably not going to be sick. That means you probably show up on time and you're ready to work, even if nobody's standing over you. All of the attributes of somebody who regularly goes to the gym are all the attributes of a good employee.
yeah,
On top of a good entrepreneur, sure, but like they're just good habits that carry over into everything. It probably means you're going to be better in a relationship.
oh yeah, it
Like-
screams accountability. It screams, determination.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this person's reliable to themselves.
Yeah.
They're taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
So that's like, it's already a step up on anybody that's like not looking the best, not,
Well, and like
as
the fun psychology experiment is, okay, if you were left alone in a room full of donuts and nobody's ever going to know
Yeah.
whether you eat those donuts or not, are you going to do it? And like, I would bet, though there are some people who exercise who might chow down, that like the person who goes to the gym and holds themselves accountable won't want those donuts because they know intrinsically what that means if I put into me. Whereas if I have no accountability to myself and I have nobody to be accountable to, then like, cool, is this jelly filled? Let's get it in me.
yeah. Do you like sugar?
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Our brain runs on glucose. Like we're wired to enjoy carbohydrates.
I found that going for the no sugar, like
Yeah.
it broke the spell, man.
Yeah.
Like I see like a sugary drink and I'm like, no, like I don't even want it.
Well, so like I'm going to say the cheesy lines are like, if you give rats
Yeah.
the opportunity to pick cocaine in water and sugar in water, they pick sugar 7 out of 10 times.
Oh shit.
Yeah, exactly. If you look at somebody on a brain scan who's had cocaine and you look at somebody on a brain scan who's had sugar, almost the same spots in their brains light up.
Wow.
If you look at like, I'm going to say cocaine production, it's these plants out in the middle of like South Africa, they mulch it down, turn it into a white powder. Okay, we take corn, take that, mulch it down, use some chemicals, turn it into a white powder. And so like, there seems to be not this stigma around it because, well, sugar's a food. It's part of your food. Like it's in
Yeah.
fruit. So, I mean, it's okay. But like,
Bro, it's everywhere.
listen, cocaine isn't a plant. Don't kid yourself either. Like, well,
It's also natural.
right. Exactly. Well, so if I can have sugar, then I can have cocaine. But
Yeah.
like, no. So yeah, it certainly lights up some parts of our brain.
Do you find that there's a better awareness in this day and age versus like 10 years ago? How old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm 38, so
Exactly. But like, certainly when
maybe we're getting more aware in our age.
I'm scared for the younger generation. I won't lie there.
I was at the grocery store yesterday, and we went to this little ma and pa grocery store in the small town, and there was 10 different jars of peanut butter. You know how you can
Yeah.
get different,
Yeah.
and we usually get this like crushed peanuts. Like that's
Yeah, yeah.
one
Peanuts only.
ingredient.
Yep.
It's freaking good.
Yep.
It tastes good.
Yep.
Like it's delicious.
Yep.
But I was looking at all these brands and I'm like, corn syrup, sugar.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what the hell, man? Like, why are you putting this in all the food?
Because it's cheap and it gets you hooked.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and listen, like, if I would like to believe that I would be an altruistic person and fantastic and all that stuff, but like if you were running a company and you're like, well, if we just put sugar in our peanut butter, then we'll double our sales and cut our costs in half.
Yeah.
Like technically that's good business,
It's a cheap additive.
right? Like it's a cheap filler and it keeps your clients coming back. Like if you look at like business as a numbers thing, that's good business.
Yeah.
So like, am I supposed to be mad at these companies for doing good business? Or should I be mad at myself for falling for it and I'm going to fill myself with corn sugar and peanuts?
Are you following the Prime drink fiasco?
Not, I know what you're talking about, but not close enough to.
Prime, it's a...
Yeah, it's an energy drink and it had a little extra caffeine. I don't know if it had some other stuff in it, but now they're pulling it off the shelves in Canada. How dare you?
So it's owned by Logan Paul.
Yes.
The YouTuber.
Yeah.
And it's an independent company.
Yeah.
And I went to the grocery store. My buddy had gotten me one at a golf tournament. I never heard about it. It's like, oh, this is pretty tasty. There's like 2 grams of sugar
Yeah.
in this entire bottle.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, tastes good. It's got B12. It's got
How
good
can I say no?
ingredients. You know, it looks fine. And then I go to the grocery store, the small convenience store in Wendover, where I live. Then the cashier is like, oh, you're buying that. Like, that's horrible for you. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know. And then I go outside. And then my mom's out there speaking with one of her friends. She's like, oh, you got Prime. That's horrible for you. And then I started thinking. So there was 4 people in total within that little, exchange there that told me it was bad for me. Who owns the majority of drinks? It's Coca-Cola. It's PepsiCo, right?
Yep.
Gatorade,
Yep.
all those drinks. It's like, man, there's 27 grams of sugar in a Coke. There's 32 in a Pepsi. I mean, I might be off on the numbers there, but I know it's a lot.
Yeah.
And like, why are we being told that this other brand that's brand new is like so bad for our health? Is it maybe because those companies have a bit more money?
I think it could be some of that. I think at the same time, don't overlook the effect of all the other things that aren't sugar in a lot of those. A lot of the colorants, like we know. There's a designation. I don't know if it's the same in Canada, but I know down in the States that it's called GRAS, generally regarded as safe. And so like you'll have a food additive and if it's marked generally regarded as safe, then it means that they can put it in your food at whatever the dose is that is generally regarded as safe. But what that means is that there's only 5% of people who have some sort of reaction to it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean it doesn't have an effect on you just because it's generally regarded as safe. The example I tell people is think about like Tylenol.
Yeah.
Tylenol doesn't have sugar in it, doesn't have calories, or I think it's like 1 calorie per tablet or something like that. So like, cool, there's probably like 40 calories in my bottle of Tylenol. But if you finish that bottle, you are going to die. And so, not that I'm going to try and pick apart this artificial sweetener thing, because that is a whole bag of worms in itself. But like, there are chemicals that don't register as sugars in our body. Sure, they don't metabolize into glucose. Okay, so they don't have calories in them in a traditional sense then. All right, sure. That doesn't mean it doesn't have an effect on you. So, I don't know. Is it safe? Is it healthy? Who decides what that is? I'm not sure I trust Health Canada for literally anything anymore. And so,
yeah.
So I don't know. So I think it's important that people do their own due diligence and like fact check that shit for themselves, like
aspartame's been...
Right. Aspartame is of much talk. There are some people that say that it does nothing for you and it is generally regarded as safe. And all the rat studies, they gave like the rats huge doses of aspartame and you'd have to eat like a kilogram of it, like as raw powder as a human for you to be equivalent doses. And I don't know that that's wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that makes it safe either. And so I think if you're going to err on the side of caution, then to avoid it is probably better. I mean, if I can put aspartame into water or squeeze a lemon into water and both of those are palatable, then I'll squeeze the lemon.
Yeah, just have water, straight water.
Same thing. The jury is kind of out as to whether aspartame has like an effect on your neurology and like whether it'll change your brain.
Yeah.
Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. You want a dice roll? Sure, go for it. It's your mouth, but whatever you want to do it.
That's what I heard. That it can cause things like Alzheimer's, dementia prematurely. And I mean, the stevia is an interesting one because, again, it's natural. It's a plant.
Oh, then it's okay.
And it has 0 calories.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so there's no like guilt here. But I can tell you for a fact, whenever I have like one of those soft drinks, the Zevias, I don't sleep good, man. It's like, I don't know what it is. What effects does the stevia have on the rest of your body?
Well, so I can tell you that if you put sugar on somebody's tongue, that your body will start to release insulin before it even makes it to your stomach. So your body's like, oh, sugar is coming. Okay, start the wheels. We know what's up. And so I don't know to what degree or what effect. Maybe that crashes your blood sugar a little bit. Maybe it spikes your insulin a little bit by having an artificial sweetener. Same thing. It's kind of here nor there. Science kind of supports it. Science doesn't support it.
Yeah.
But like, same thing is why I think you look at data in any study.
So what are you saying is that if you have stevia,
so if you're having stevia, you may
have
then sort of some response in the body because it's associations, right? Like you might smell the perfume on somebody off of, and it's the same perfume that your like first girlfriend wore, and you smell it and you have flashbacks, right? Like your brain has those associations. So if your brain associates it tastes sweet, sugar is coming, make insulin, and then there's no sugar for that insulin to attach itself to, that'll play with your blood sugar.
Bro, that'd be an interesting study.
Well, like I said, there has been some studies, whether or not they're accurate and blah 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 blah. But like I said, that's neither here nor there on that topic. So
are you do you follow Tim Ferriss?
That name does sound familiar.
4-Hour Workweek guy.
Yeah.
He does like a gazillion experiences like this, like on himself.
Yeah.
And it's like totally one you could do yourself.
Well, listen, you could just get yourself like one of those like insulin or blood sugar prickers kind of thing.
Family
and
members that have a diabetes.
Who did that? Chris Gethin, I think, the supernatural bodybuilder there. He did some of that stuff where he was drinking like Monster energy drinks, and then he would wear one of those like blood glucose monitors that like sticks to you, and then he was like, "Here's what happened to my body when I did it." And so I think that with studies or data or science, whatever you want to call that ultimately what you do as science is you collect data points, right? You collect the experience of a whole bunch of people, and once you have n equals greater than 10 or so, then you can start to bet how things go. Well, each one of those data points is some individual experience, and so if I'm going to try and do this study for myself, then I'll collect my own data points. And so whether or not that actually happens, who cares? If you know that you don't sleep well because you drank that drink, then don't drink that drink.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care what the mechanism of action is. I don't know whether your blood sugar is doing this or that or the other thing, but I know that your data point says that like it doesn't feel good when I drink that.
Carbonated water too does the same thing. And like, yeah, it's got 0 calories, but does it kill off your gut biome? Like, I mean, who knows?
Exactly.
We don't know.
Exactly.
But yeah, man, stuff like that fascinates me. And like now I'm thinking like, okay, I'll go get one of those blood sugars monitor, and I'll just like study the hell out of it. And
collect your own data. Figure it out what works for you, right?
Figure
like
it out.
it's the same for like opiates even. Like there's a drug curve for just about every drug that's on the planet, and there's usually about 5 to 10% of people who are either super responders or non-responders to whatever that drug is. That's everything. That's every drug out there. That means there is variety in human beings, and some people like respond really well and some people respond really poorly. So if I look at the study that says opiates are safe as if they were, then, and I take some, then maybe you overdose because your body can't handle it because you're one of those 5%. Maybe you have stevia and your body just can't digest it because whatever. Look at people who have like allergies. Like I would call peanuts healthy, but there's a portion of the population that it will kill them.
Yeah. And when it comes to stuff like commercial products like Oxycodone or Codone.
I think they're both a thing that exists.
Yeah. And then any type of opiate, like painkillers, it's like, who's telling us that it's safe?
Yeah.
It's the people that want us to...
It's safe. Take it. I swear.
It's safe. We did studies.
Do you want this sports car to go with it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My doctor said it was good.
Yeah, exactly.
Did your doctor take it? Did they do the study? No. They were told that it was safe.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
By a drug rep. It's the same as like... in the government, right? Like you can have people who like their job is just solicitors. Like you just go around and like give money to politicians for your own
you try to convince people
Right, exactly.
that your industry is good and that
Right.
it's, you know,
Can you weigh this in our favor a little bit? And listen, like
safe and effective.
Yeah, exactly. Safe and effective. Scientists are just as easy to buy as politicians are. If you have enough money, there's a book. There's actually a great photo with Bill Gates and his like 5 favorite books or something like that. And one of them is How to Lie with Statistics.
So just put a spin on it.
Oh, well, listen, like you can. The easy one is correlation doesn't equal causation, and I think it's like. Somebody will have to Google this and tell me which one it is for sure, but I'm pretty sure that like if you look at the movies that were put out, I want to say it's by like Leonardo DiCaprio versus deaths by pool over the last 10 years, that the movies that the years that he put out more movies, there were more deaths in pools, and the years that he didn't, that there were fewer deaths in pools. That doesn't mean that like those movies caused death in pools, but if I overlap them and it looks like they go together, then science. It's science.
Have you read the book Freakonomics?
I know what that book is, but I have not read
They
it.
explore a bunch of like statistical anomalies.
Yeah.
And it's freaking interesting.
Yeah.
Really cool. So I mean, let's move on to the other topic that we wanted to, the reason why we're here today.
Yeah.
So I guess I first found you like probably, what would it have been, like March 2020?
Yeah. Well, so March of 2020 is when we shut down.
So yeah, March 2020, that's when the lockdowns first happened.
Yeah, exactly.
In Ontario,
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah.
And then there's this guy on my Facebook feed, and this local guy, tall guy, and he's meeting the police at the front door of his business, and he's being extremely polite, just like turning them back around and saying, hey, listen, this is the Charter of Rights of Canada, and you were quoting the Charter of Rights, and you were telling them, hey, guys, like, this is not right.
Yeah.
Here's a reason.
Yeah.
Subsection.
Buddy, that was a quick course, and oh my God.
Yeah. So I know eventually that was all wrong. At the start, I remember the first 2 weeks, I was like, oh, we don't know what we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Let's shut down. Let's
I did that too.
You did that too?
I closed the gym from the middle of March until about the end of April, where I was like, oh my God, there's a virus. People are dying.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I figured that in times in history, there have been, I'm going to say, plagues or illnesses or stuff that like kill off a whole bunch of us. And I really believe that like us as a human society, we're getting kind of weaker and sicker. So it's probably a little easier for something to wipe us all out.
So let's just stay safe.
And I was like, maybe this is it.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, it's been a long time. I didn't see it in my generation. It's been a long time. Maybe we're just due for a mass extinction event. Mm-hmm. And so I closed my gym. I was like, oh my God, this is it. And then I fully admit, and I gave a long speech and I wrote it out and I tried to make it as well worded as I could. And we had an interview with CTV and I talked about this whole thing and they cut it out. And the one clip that they picked out of that whole lecture or speech or whatever I gave was that like, I turned into an alcoholic. And that was the one soundbite. That was it. And I really did. I genuinely did. Like from maybe at the end of March until the end of April, like I was drinking every day. I was rolling up joints every day. There was one day like I did my first joint at 9 a.m. I was like, nope, I'd try again tomorrow. Screw it. And then super unhealthy. I do not advise that to anybody. That was a very low point in my life.
Bro, that was a big part of the lockdowns. It was like people were
to just demoralize everybody, right? Like you can't go see your friends.
People were drinking booze like crazy.
Look at the LCBO. They were crushing it. Essential though. LCBO, essential.
Yeah, weird, eh?
And then by the end of April, then I had been doing my reading because I was type A. It's the same reason why like I could quote the Charter of Rights is because like I read. Fine. Yeah. There's got to be a way out of this. There has to be a way out of this. And then I started to look at numbers for like hospital admissions and who was actually getting admitted to hospitals and like, oh, wait a sec. They came in, they have COVID, but like they were admitted for a gunshot wound, but that counts as a COVID case. That doesn't make any sense to me. And so by the end of April, then I was like, okay, this doesn't add up. Mm-hmm. By the end of April, middle of May, until the middle of June, it was like sneaking people in. People are like, Zach, how do I get into the gym? Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not scared of a virus. Like, how do we get through the back door? Hook it up. So we were sneaking into the gym and we were having workouts. And the thing that was the tipping point where I was like, okay, now I'm full tilt on this. come find me was that there was a KFC across the street from my gym. And it was food, therefore it was essential. I was a gym. You might touch a dumbbell, you might get sick, therefore gyms are closed. And I knew enough about fitness, and I was a fat kid in high school, and I got into health, and it's been all of that for me for a long time in my life. And I was like, if this has anything to do with public health, then why is KFC essential and the gyms are not?
Yeah.
And then I reached out to my MP and my MPP and my mayor, and I tried to get a contact with all of them. I did speak to my MP, or MPP. No, sorry, MP. Maire France Lalonde, yeah, exactly. And we had like a 30-minute talk where she was like, you need to toe the line. I was like, aren't you, like, don't you work for your constituents, but you're going to tell me to just choke down whatever liberal, like, I'm trying to tell you what to go do, but you're trying to tell me what to do. And like, I don't think that's how this is work, or how this is supposed to work. Public servant doesn't really sound like you're serving the public to me.
Yeah, it's like she thinks it's flowing the other way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, shit rolls downhill. I thought the government worked for us. I thought that was the top of the hill and it rolls down to you, but
it's a public service.
Yeah, exactly. I learned that one the hard way.
To be in office. Yeah.
And then by June, I'd kind of told my trainers, I was like, it's up to you guys. If you want to come in and bring your clients in, I'm just going to say we're open and this is going to be it. And if you don't want to be, no problem. And I had a couple trainers who left pretty immediately. And I remember having one meeting, and one of my trainers, David, will talk about that meeting lots, where I sat everybody down and I was like, okay, listen, I know you're all on contract. I know that you've been with me this whole time. I know that COVID is crazy. This is wild, but I'm about to become vocal. I'm going to stay open and I'm going to do it flagrantly. And if you guys want to stay on the team, I'd love to have you on the team. I will keep looking out for you as best as I can. You guys are my family. I will do my best for all of you. And if you want out, you can have out. But I'm going in that fucking direction, so you can come or not. And holy man, that was a point where I was like, okay, like there were a lot of people who stayed and they were like, okay, we're about it. We're on your side. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what's going on, but we trust you. So let's do it. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe people like want to be behind me on this. Okay, sure. Okay, let's do it. And then from there was no stopping me.
Yeah.
And then cops showed up and police and cruisers and bylaws.
So what was that like? Like, were you open for like weeks on end, and then it was just like clients were just starting to walk in, and how did the cops get called on you? Like, what was that like?
The cops got called to me. I ended up getting, as part of disclosure, there was a list. It was a 2-page list of phone calls that the bylaws had, and it didn't list anybody's names, obviously, but it was like the date and time. If somebody was like, there's this fucking gym, and I see people are going in and out kind of thing, blah, 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 blah. And so I had enough calls to bylaws of people who were unhappy that people were trying to go into a gym.
Concerned citizens.
Yeah, concerned citizens. And same thing, there was a chip truck that was in like the parking lot adjacent to the gym. And like there were days like I would see people like crushing a poutine, like watching us walking to the gym, and I'm like, you're phone calling. As soon as the doors closed, I just know it. And so once I got enough phone calls, then they had like have to start showing up because they're public servants, of course, and so they want to serve all these nice people who are calling into bylaws.
Oh, they're doing their job.
Exactly. And then so the first time they kind of came, and it was a gentle conversation. They were like, hey, we hear you're open, yada, yada, yada.
How are you feeling?
I was like, okay, here we go. Okay, all right, this is how it's going to be. And it wasn't too bad, because like I worked in the bars for like 10 years, and like I dealt with a lot of police. I dealt with a lot of stupid people. I seem to do okay in those sort of situations as well, that like I can keep my cool.
Yeah,
like when you watch like two Lebanese birthday parties try to beat each other up in a club, like you're just a bylaws officer. Like nobody's getting angry. This isn't so bad. Nobody's just talk this
getting
out.
Hurt here.
No, there's no way you're coming inside of my business. But like, I'm not going to be mean about that. Thank you. I appreciate your services, but beat it.
So I've seen a few of your videos.
Yeah.
What were they trying to do the first time that they went?
The first time that they wanted to come in, the first time was that like, you're a gym, you need to close. And I was like, well, no, I'm not a gym. I'm a private facility. I'm a private training facility. Hair salons are open. Hair salons are listed as a personal care service. Personal trainers are also listed as a personal care service. And so I'm the same as hair salons. They're still essential at the time. So I'm going to continue operating. And it was like, no, you have dumbbells in there. It's a gym. I was like, oh, okay, sure. Okay, thanks. They're like, we'll be back. I was like, all right, know where to find me. And then it kind of escalated from there. And like, I wasn't super nice with them. And so the next time they came, they showed up with police. And I later found out that when the bylaws call the police and tell the police, we assume this person is going to become violent, then the police have to show up.
And you think that's what happened?
Oh, I know for a fact now, after the fact, that's what happened.
When I saw those videos, you weren't being overly confrontational. I mean,
I was being confrontational, but I certainly was not being violent because I understood that the second that I became violent or raised my voice or did anything, all your credibility disappears.
Of course.
Then you're just as anti-vaxxer, or you don't believe in COVID. You're just a fucking crazy conspiracy theorist or whatever.
Well, the vax wasn't even on the table at that time.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. I'm ahead of myself there. But you're a COVID denier, and you don't believe anybody's dying, and you must hate you hate your grandmother, don't you? You just want them to die, and so
that was a big one.
Yeah, I have a really nasty email from somebody that I've kept, that the guy was basically said, like, I hope that you die. You must hate my family. Why would you want my grandma to die? Like, yeah. Oh, all
like
kinds.
People were so scared.
Oh, 1-star reviews coming out of my ears. There was a morning I woke up to 52 1-star reviews on my Google page. I woke up and I was like, you got Google reviews? And like, oh my God.
So, bro, I went in, I gave you a 5-star review.
Thank you, sir.
And I said, thanks for doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm happy there's brave people like you out there. Something like that.
Yeah.
Because I did that, I got negative reviews on my business.
No way.
So, I mean, there's ripples in the pond, right?
Well, that's it. So people are like, who is this guy giving a 5-star? I'm going to find out who he is. Oh, he's got a business? Well, I hate you too then.
Yeah, they want to destroy. Anyways. So,
and it was a lot of anger, right? Like, because everybody just had their life ripped out from underneath them, and everybody, I understand why people would be angry. It's just, why turn on your fellow man and not like, why not get angry at your captors?
Yeah.
You know, like the government, I compare it to like an abusive relationship, right? Like, you weren't allowed to talk to others. You just stay at home. You need to like stay off. You only believe whatever I tell you. That's an abuser, man. Like,
100%.
But then everybody got angry at everybody else instead of realizing the problem is either up or down. Those public servants aren't really publicly serving us.
So how did it finish? Like, did they escalate? Did they start giving you fines?
Oh, baby. Paperwork, man. Paperwork on paperwork. There was one day they just showed up and they were like, here, and just gave me paper and turned around and walked away. There was one of the days that they served me, same thing. Just walked up. The guy didn't even want it. Like, here's paper, and just bye.
Do you think that some of the cops were like not on your side, but they were like, okay, this is ridiculous?
So I
mean, I know you can't like assign intent to them, but
exactly. I don't know exactly what was going on inside of any of their heads. It certainly felt intimidating at the moment to have like, there was a day, and that is the video that has become viral. It's got like 500,000 views. I had people who were like, we love you from Poland and we love you from Sweden. And like, I would go to protests and I would have people come up like, I'm in Alberta and I recognize, like, man, I love you in your gym. Like, keep doing what you're doing. And so like that video, if I wasn't on the map before, that really did it. And that was 3 police cruisers and 3 bylaws cruisers and 5 police cars that like showed up to the gym.
So 3 cop cars?
It was 8 cruisers of various assortments. There was like 6 police officers and 3 bylaws officers, and they all just showed up. And at the time, I just
for a guy that's opening his gym.
Yeah, like, man, I wasn't selling drugs. I wasn't like child trafficking. Why were you coming after me when you should be going after those guys anyways?
Yeah.
But like, and I wasn't pulling anybody in from the hair. I wasn't forcing any of my clients to come in and train. It really wasn't. You can go back and check the tapes. I'm open. If you want to come in, I welcome you with open arms, but I take no offense if you want to steer clear of the gym and you feel scared about a virus.
Yeah.
You do you.
Of course.
But I'm open over here. And so it's never been malicious. It was like, I needed a gym to train. I figured other people did too. And so it felt really intimidating to have all these police officers, all these bylaws just like crowding the door, which felt like being a bouncer again. I was like, okay, well, I'm security. I'm in the front door. These guys are too drunk. I'm not letting them in. Mm-hmm. And so in the moment, it felt really intimidating to have the police officers there. And I thought that they were not there against me, but they were not there to keep the peace. I now realize on high authority that those police officers were there because they were called to be there, and there really weren't any other calls to go deal with.
Yeah.
I was the only guy in Orleans who was doing any of that, so I got all the attention because I was the only one.
Was priority because there was nothing else.
There was nothing else to do. So no. So I really truly believe that I'm going to say a high 90% of the police force are really trying to be good officers. And I can think of one particular, if he's watching this, he knows who he is, that like, no, I genuinely believe that the police force are stuck between a rock and a hard place, and that they are mandated beyond the government to uphold laws, and at the same time that government that mandates them still kind of pays them, kind of thing. And so like,
well, they did push back at some point.
right, exactly. It all almost happened, and there was a point where they were given the powers to start stopping people if they were out after curfew, and they're like, we're not doing that. And I was like, oh yes, my
right.
God, good. There's still some human beings out there.
And
So now looking back, bylaws officers who just, I don't know, just really wanted to feel like they were important suddenly, who just wanted to come throw some paperwork at me. No, I felt standoffish to all of them, police included.
Is there anything you did that you wish you would have done differently?
I don't know. Opened sooner?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, looking back now, with all the data that we have, I mean, it seems so silly that they sent the cops there. And it seems so silly that they were trying to close down gyms.
But see, like
And
the
it
thing
seems-
is that like you look at like the apartheid was legal, Jim Crow was legal, slavery was legal, and so like what like the law in the letter says doesn't always necessarily mean the things that are right.
But you know, devil's advocate to that is like, you're comparing this to slavery. And it's like, you crybaby. And it's like, listen, no.
No, it's
Zach is not comparing it to slavery. He's just
no.
saying.
I'm
it's-
saying that right and wrong and legal and illegal don't coincide.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Sometimes it do, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, most laws are written in order to be, divide good and bad.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just doesn't make any sense, man.
No,
It doesn't
exactly.
make any sense.
Yeah.
And
Like, why is KFC open and the gym is closed if this is about public health?
what I got really upset about, and I guess I'm pretty upset about it today, is like, okay, fast forward a few months, a year from when your situation was happening, they were pushing these medications on us, these vaccines, right?
Yeah.
And I've got all my shots, from previously.
Yeah.
So I'm not an anti-vax.
Yeah.
But I was looking at the data just like you. I
Yeah.
was saying, okay, well, people that are passing away from this are, older.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're having a hard time with it. And a lot of them are maybe not as healthy as they can be, which I did not find myself in that category. So I'm
Yeah.
like, listen, we've been trying to have a baby for a few years. My girlfriend had 3 miscarriages at that point. And we're like, listen, we're not taking it.
Yeah.
We're not taking this.
Yeah.
And what upset me is that not one health official, not the Canadian Dr. Tam, not Dr. Elliott in Ontario, now he's replaced by Dr. Moore,
Yep.
not Doug Ford, not JT, not one of them said, hey,
Vera Etches too. I'm going to throw that name in there because she wrote me a cease and desist letter, and whatever.
who is she?
Same thing, public health officer like in
Ottawa
my
Health.
area. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, get Doug Ford on there and say, hey, folks, like, it's time for us to, get out there, get moving. Maybe let's put away the Tim Hortons and the Timbits for a bit. We all love our cheesecake, but maybe we should slack off, And it was like always the same message.
Yeah.
It's time to hunker down, folks. And It's
Yeah.
like, Dougie, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
Aren't you seeing the same data that we're seeing? Like, there's no need for us to go all and get this vaccine. There's no need.
I don't even think they were seeing the data. There was a video of like a hot mic that happened, and like one of the health officers like tapped her paper, and she's like, "Oh, I don't even look at this stuff. I just read what's on the teleprompter."
It's so frustrating. And then they would say, okay, the cameras are about to turn on. It's time to put our masks on.
Oh, there was tons of videos of that.
Yeah.
Like the guy's like behind stage, puts his mask on, goes out, gives a talk, comes back, takes his mask off.
So, a huge thank you for doing what you did.
Thank you for
Yeah, man.
appreciating that.
And I think that, thank God there's people like you out there, because I wasn't the one to speak up.
Yeah.
I'm a real estate agent. I find that, if I start dividing my crowd, then I lose clients. And then, if I become political, I start losing clients. I've sort of turned the page on that, where it's like, listen, this is the way I am.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we're going to get to know each other, you'll eventually figure out who I am.
Yeah.
And I'd rather the way I think right from the get-go. If we don't think alike, doesn't mean we don't have to do business together.
Yeah, but you do better business when you do think alike. And my tip that I will give to all the people who are watching this who might be scared to share what their views are is that I very recently moved, and I've had some stuff that needs to be done to the house, and there have been like some contractors that I've met, and there have been some like people who do all kinds of work in all sorts of different fields. And like, I don't think I've had anybody yet who I haven't been like open and honest and like, do you want me to wear the mask? I'm like, no, I don't want you to wear the mask. Are you kidding me? Like, you should Google my name and realize that like I am not about that stuff. Like, you can just drop the act right now and like just put it out on the table, and everybody's like, oh, thank God, absolutely, I feel the same way. And so
I think a lot of people feel it,
and like,
they
and
just
a
don't
lot
want to
of
talk about
those
it.
people are like, hey man, like, cool, let me hook you up and I'll give you a little discount, or same thing like digital currency, like all of that stuff. Sure, there's a time and place that I'm going to use my bank card, but there are other times where like I'm going to pay you cash. And like once you put it out there and be like, okay, I'll pay you cash. I don't care if you wear a mask. You and I are friends. If we both think alike, everybody who I've now worked with, they do a really good job. They show up on time. They do all that stuff, and it is really like honest transaction. Whereas like the people who like, I don't know how you think, and if I'm open about it, then they're kind of a little standoffish. Maybe you're not going to become a client. Maybe we're not going to do business together. That's fine. I'll find somebody else who does. And there has become this, I don't think underground market is the way to put it, but like that, like those like-minded people are happy to do things with other like-minded people.
Well, we're here today, right?
Right, exactly. And so if you're just open about that with whoever you're about to do business with, sure, maybe you only get 80% of whatever the sales that you do, but the ones that you do are going to make up for that difference. Has been my own experience.
And that's the cost of being truth to who you are.
Yeah.
You might lose some business.
Yeah.
But you might gain some, But
listen,
I mean,
I lost some trainers when we like first shut down. Some people were like, nope, I'm backing out. Or same thing once I got too political.
Were they scared, or were they thinking differently? Or you don't know?
I think a mixed bag across.
Yeah.
There was one person who literally said like, my clients think you're becoming too political, and so they don't want to train here anymore. I was like, no problem. Same thing. If you don't want to be here, that's fine. I think there was one guy who was just scared for his business to continue to succeed, whether or not he had clients who were going to come in. And so I think that was more of a fear of a business and fear of a virus. I can't say it was an equal thing across everybody. And
No,
so no,
different-
for various reasons.
Different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say that I've lost some clients.
Yeah.
Because of the way I express myself.
Yeah, yeah.
And no colleagues. I mean,
I should say training clients, like people who are with trainers. Yes, we certainly lost those. And I'm going to say most of those were either fear of a virus or because I was too political.
yes.
One or two.
Has anybody come back to you now that the dust has settled and apologized?
One guy's name is Dan. Kudos if he's watching this too.
Yeah.
That like sent me a message. He was like, hey man, when you first opened up, I thought you were just insane. I thought you were crazy. He's like, and now I see it. He's like, and so he's like, he never told me anything ill. I had no idea, but he's like, I'm sorry that I judged you the way that I did, even though I had no idea about it. And he's like, I just wanted to say kudos. I was like, man, that's big of you to like go out of your way. I didn't even know you thought less of me, but now you're coming back to say like,
It takes a big person to.
absolutely. That was a massive move. And so no, outside of that,
Kudos to Dan.
yeah, exactly. Tip of the hat. I remember that one big time.
Yeah. It's tough, man, to admit that you've been duped.
Yeah.
You know,
It's man, I don't know that it's Oscar Wilde. The quote is that it's harder to convince somebody that they've been fooled than to fool them to begin with.
yeah. So you can fool somebody pretty easily.
Yeah.
but to prove to them that you were fooled, they're like, no, this is
I
the
know
way
this. What are you talking about? Listen to the health. You're not an expert. You don't have a PhD. Are you in virology? No,
Yeah.
but I understand data. Like I did statistics in university while I was an engineer.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. That whole, you're not an expert.
What makes somebody an expert to begin with? And most of the experts are all people who have been appointed by some government political person rather than it be based on your qualifications or your ability. Because there was a health officer who was in very briefly, and like his history was in veterinarian medicine or something like that. And then he was the public health officer for whatever area that was. I'm like, okay, but we're dealing with humans.
Yeah.
But no, you're an expert. But it's the same thing. If that carries over, then like, yes, I have some expertise in statistics. Like, yes, I am qualified to look at some of those numbers. Well, you're not an expert. Well, what is that line?
Yeah. The Pfizer president, he's not a human doctor. He's a animal doctor.
Oh, and I thought it was so hilarious when he was like, well, I want to let everybody else get their shot first. And so I'm going to wait at the back of the line. I'm like, oh, man, you're just such a gift to human beings.
Yeah. What's his name? Borley or something
Yeah,
like that?
Borla, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, he's a vet.
Sure.
But I mean, he's an expert.
He's an entrepreneur is what he is.
Hey, kudos to him, man. Successful year, I guess. Successful few years.
Man, there was a point there the Pfizer stock just skyrocketed.
Yeah, I've thought about buying it.
But it's about public health. Come on now, this is about health.
So, what worries you about the future?
What worries me about the future is that I think the average person has been taught, pushed, coerced into believing to not even trust themselves. That's what makes me scared.
So they don't even use their eyes, their ears.
I'm too stupid anyways, so I'm going to just do as I'm told.
Do you think that people are saturated with information? They're saturated with TikToks, Instagrams,
For sure.
Facebook,
For sure.
Netflix,
Sure.
and then they've got no space left for critical thinking?
Oh, I don't think that's what it is. I think that critical thinking is like a gate, if you will, that you kind of decide what like goes in and what goes out. And I think in critical thinking that it is important to consider both sides of whatever that argument is, and you need to let in things from both sides of whatever that is, and then decide for yourself. And that you need to keep critical thinking inside of all the data. And so if all of the like TikTok videos and YouTube videos and people who are screaming on YouTube that the vaccine is killing my grandma and all that stuff, that all exists outside of your little island. And then you got to decide what makes it onto your island. And you let a little bit in here and a little bit in there. And it is not that there is an overwhelming ocean of data out there. Yes, there is. There's unlimited information on everything. And now that you're saturated and you sit there and just scroll and it just sits into your face, then yes, there's an ungodly amount of that coming at you. But that just means that there's more for you to sift through. And I think that if your common sense or your ability to self-judge is good, then you can kind of process as much information as you can stuff into yourself.
Yeah. I've had friends tell me, like I say, hey, listen, you should probably look into this. Like 82% of people that are dying from COVID are deficient of vitamin D.
Yeah.
You know, there's a large percentage that are obese. Like,
Yeah.
how the hell do you know all this? Like, and I said, well, I did some research.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
read.
I've listened to some podcast episodes that were like objective.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't have time for that. I just listen to the news, and you know, if they want to stick a needle in me, then
Not even news. They're watching Netflix.
yeah. And they're like, listen, I just do what I'm told, and then I move on. You know.
Yeah.
So I think that there's more people awake today
Yes.
that there was back then.
Of course. I think there are also more people who have bought into it all the way than there were back then as well.
Yeah. So you think the divide is getting wider?
I think that, yes, I think the divide is getting wider because I think there's a bunch of people who like have gotten every shot up to this point and they're like, no, I'm committed. There's a virus. I'm going to protect myself. And they have become,
It's for people.
yeah, absolutely. But they've been just as hypnotized into it as the people who have become aware of it. And so, yes, I think we have some more people who are far more aware than they were before. And I think we have some more people who are far more, I'm going to call it indoctrinated, than there were before. There's still people who wear their mask and drive in their car by themselves.
I know. It's crazy. sad.
Yeah.
They were scared.
Terrified. That's what it is. It's fear. Fear is so motivating.
They were scared to the point to continue to act like that, and
Yeah.
they're not letting it go.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic, pessimistic for the next 10 years? You think we'll face something like this again? You think if we do, I mean,
I think that optimism and pessimism, because I call me an expert or not, I certainly identify as a scientist. And I don't think that there is space in science, real science, and like testing your hypothesis and circling back on it. I don't think that optimism and pessimism is part of that. And so, like, am I an optimist or a pessimist? I hope that things are going to go really well. Do I think that they're going to go that way? I don't know. Am I optimistic that they will? I can't say that I am. Am I pessimistic and I think we're all screwed? I don't know that I can say that either.
yeah.
And so I think for me, all that I can do is assimilate the data that's put in front of me and try to extrapolate what I'm to do now. But to try and predict what's going to happen next, But am I optimistic or pessimistic about it? I don't know. I think probably closer to optimistic than pessimistic, but even that, I don't know that I prescribe to it. I think that history repeats itself. I think that humans are humans. I think that we are on this cyclical thing of history that we seem to repeat our same mistakes over and over again. And so I think that we're very much in a time of hardship right now. And I think that it's going to go back to a time of good times, and then it's going to go back to a time of hard times, and then it's going to repeat that over and over again. And so I'm optimistic that that cycle is going to continue, but I don't know that I'm optimistic it's going to go better or worse in the next 2, 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
What about you? Are you optimistic or pessimistic? What are you feeling?
There's a quote I really like, and I try to live by it. The quote is, only the paranoid survive.
Okay. Yeah.
Only the optimistic thrive.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
And, you know, I want to do both those things. I want to survive, and I want to
optimistically paranoid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm very, very cautious to who I let occupy space in my head. You know, there's some news channels that I listen to them and I'm like, okay, well, you're bullshitting me right now. Probably. Yeah. I'll still listen to what you got to say. Yeah. And then I'll break it down why what they're saying is bullshit.
And I think it's important not to shut that out.
No.
I certainly don't prescribe to CTV, but I make sure that I read some of the articles.
You've got a beef with CTV.
Or CBC, CFRA, they all did interviews with me. Yeah. And like Rebel News was footing the bill for one of my lawyers for a little while too. And so
good for them.
Exactly. Yeah. I ended up having to fire the lawyer because he was trying to tell me to take a plea deal.
No.
Yeah, exactly. And so same thing. I listen to Rebel News and Bright Light News and whatever, True North Media or whatever it is. Both. You need to have them all on your radar. Because if I'm no, I'm not listening to Rebel News or just a bunch of conspiracy theorists, then you end up really drinking the Kool-Aid that you're served by CTV. And same thing that I think all the people who are like-minded, like you and I, that if what you do is you cut yourself off from CTV and you pay no attention to any of that stuff, that it's going to creep up on you without you paying attention.
Yeah. No, I love listening to CBC with some people that might be a bit asleep.
Yeah.
Say, hey, that's bullshit because of X, Y, and Z. And then, you try to
have a conversation, but
try to shake them out of it a bit, Yeah, I mean, the portrayal of the Freedom Convoy by CBC, CTV, Global News, I would go. I went 4 times. I guess it was 3 weekends.
Yeah.
I went once during the week and 3 weekends, and people were like, you did what?
Exactly.
You were at that. You were hanging around all those yahoos, and I'm like, what do you mean, man? It was the most peaceful thing I've ever seen. It was the most kumbaya thing ever.
I worked as a bouncer for about 10 years. I worked Canada Days, many of them.
Yeah.
That was gentler and cleaner than any Canada Day I've ever done. My wife at the time was pregnant. And we were like, well, I don't know if we should go downtown because, what if somebody bumps your tummy and that can... Nobody, man. It was the most Canadian, like, sorry. And like, same thing. I've been in packed clubs where people are like bumping up against each other while you're trying to move around. Everybody just like glid around everybody. It was, I've never experienced anything as Canadian as that. As like, I'm sorry. Oh, here, come on in. Come on in. And then like, and it just flowed. Everybody moved around. And after about the first hour, like we were no longer worried about like her being pregnant or something bumping into her. Like it was wild.
Man. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like the energy there was.
But those
so
truckers, those truckers are bloody Nazis, I tell you.
Yeah,
all of them are Nazis. Did you see the flag, which was probably a plant? Let's be real too. That like, oh, truckers are Nazis, and then they have the Parliament give a standing ovation to a literal Nazi.
Yeah.
What? You have guys who are in trucks with Canada flags who are just hoping to be heard because some things don't make sense from our government and we want to have a conversation. Because that's what it was. Like they said that they wanted to overthrow the government. No, you look at the memorandum of understanding. They wanted to sit down and talk with somebody. And they wouldn't even talk with the truckers because they're trying to topple the government or whatever. And then they give a standing ovation to a literal Nazi.
Yeah.
That says it all. We can debate whether COVID is COVID or whether Pfizer is Pfizer or whatever the hell. Let's just look at that.
Seems like they've got their priorities all twisted up, eh?
Or they really don't have their priorities twisted up at all, and it's all just right in front of our face, and nobody will snap out of it.
Yeah.
And like I said it during COVID, and like maybe it's a great time to say it again now, that like when I learned about like Nazi Germany in high school, I was like, oh my God, like how did the German people just like let that happen? Like, and I get that there was fear and there was like military in the streets and like you wouldn't want to speak out or your family would just disappear. Sure, fear is a powerful thing. There was lots of fear that was used through some of this stuff. And like, I always wondered, how could people just sit by and let it happen? And there were a lot of people who have sat by and let things happen over the last 3+ years. Not to say that we're sending people off to death camps or anything like that. Everybody will be the same as you said. Like, oh, Zach's saying everybody's a racist. Oh, Zach's saying this is the same as like Nazi Germany. No. But there are some similarities that you can't ignore.
Yeah. Have you heard of Professor Matthias Desmond?
I don't know. Refresh my memory,
So
maybe.
he wrote a book, I think it's called The Psychology of Tyranny or something like that.
Okay.
And he broke it down into a formula. It's like present people a fear, make them as fearful as possible, demonize a set of people, and then present one solution.
One solution. That's always a good thing, right?
So
the final solution.
there's one solution, and that solution is the only way to get out of this.
Put it in your arm. Ivermectin is bullshit. Zinc is bullshit. Yeah.
Vitamin D is bullshit.
Yeah.
Fitness won't help
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
You know, there's only one way to get out of this. And that's when you know it's bullshit. I mean, there's lots of ways. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of this podcast. There's a gazillion options for people that want to get into fitness, right?
Yeah. If you want to get healthy, that means a whole bunch of different things, and there's a bunch of different ways to get there.
So, I mean, trying to shake off this virus, there's a bunch of different ways.
No, there's not. What are you talking about? Put it in your arm.
Did you see the way that they treated Joe Rogan when he started talking about how he got better after taking ivermectin?
Well, it's like Joe even talks about it, that like he shows a video of the video they used in the news to say that he was taking horse medication, and then he's like, here's the original video, and then here's the filter that they put on so that he would look like he was jaundiced while he was talking all that stuff. And he's taking horse dewormer. Yeah, ivermectin is one of the safest drugs on the planet and has been given in like millions of doses with almost no adverse effects.
The inventor won a Nobel.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a
Medical-
really good drug that does like really good stuff and has almost no side effects.
Yeah. So I mean, what are we talking about here? I mean, it's not a
There is
a
no
horse
one way.
medicine.
No, exactly.
I mean,
Well, and so same thing too, that once you start to look at like the COVID cases that were in the hospital, it was the CDC released some data in 2021, and it was 94% of people who had COVID had 3 or more comorbidities at the time of death. That means like you had other sickness going on and then you died, COVID death. Same as there was a hospital in somewhere in the States somewhere that like there was 1 month where 100% of the deaths were COVID deaths. Nobody died from falling off a ladder. Nobody died from allergies. Nobody died from nothing. 100% were COVID deaths. That's impossible. That is impossible.
So the reason why that was probably the case is because they were getting bonuses every single time.
Yeah, exactly. The insurances were giving kickbacks on COVID deaths or whatever. So of course, if I can make 10 grand more, COVID death, sure.
Yeah.
Same thing. That's good business.
I used to live near Smythe in Saint Laurent.
Yeah.
And I would go on bike rides and, stop by the general hospital, and parking lot empty.
Yeah.
Not a single car.
Yeah.
And then you turn on the news, it's like
Hospitals overwhelmed.
at capacity.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, what's going on here? Like, I mean, are they really at capacity? Like, what's...
Well, what they don't tell you is that capacity is based on how many people they can take care of based on how many nurses they have on staff. Capacity of a hospital is not how many physical beds they have. It's that there's some mandate, I don't know what the number is, but that there is X number of patients per nurse or per doctor or whatever it is. And so if we fire all the unvaccinated nurses, then the hospital capacity decreases, though there are enough physical beds in the building for people. But they won't tell you that on the news. But same thing. My wife and I were in to see her grandmother, or her great aunt, excuse me, or grandmother, as she was passing away, and we were at the Montfort, and like, dead. It was a ghost town. There was nobody. Like there was somebody at the front who was like, "Hey, you gotta make sure to wear your mask," and we're like, "No, we have exemptions," and then. That was it. We didn't see anybody else until we made it to the room. Like, there was nobody walking the halls. There was nobody. And then there was a bunch of videos of people who were doing that were going to a bunch of hospitals. And they were like, look, there's like nothing here. What's going on?
But the mainstream media wouldn't...
Hospitals overwhelmed. Same thing. And then I saw there was a news clip from a Toronto hospital in 2017 that was like hospital overrun from a bad flu. Like, okay, so hospitals get overrun before COVID.
Yeah.
Like, we run hospitals at about 100% capacity any other year.
There's no financial advantage to run them at anything less than 90%.
Right.
So they'll go to 100.
Yeah.
Like that.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think that a political change will change things in this country?
How extreme of a political change are we talking about here?
Well, I mean, over the last 4 elections... Well, over the last 3, I voted 3 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm ashamed to say that in 2015, French Canadian, my family's always voted Liberal.
Yeah.
And
I wanted free weed.
I
voted Liberal.
let's go JT.
Horribly admit that. Like, yeah, weed, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll get
Line me
Trudeau
up.
in there. And then it took me about a year to realize, okay, this guy's not fit for the job.
Yep.
Then voted Conservative. And then during the lockdowns, the last election that we had 2 years ago, I mean, for me, there was only the PPC.
Yeah.
That was the only option.
Yeah.
Now, the Conservatives have a new leader
Yeah.
that seems to be, buddy-buddy with the Freedom crowd.
Kind of like Trudeau seemed fantastic too. But I
Yeah.
mean, not to say that he might not be a change, sure. But
I've had the chance to interact with him a few times.
Yeah.
I now got involved in local politics.
Yeah.
So I'm part of the board of directors for the Conservative Party.
no,
so,
yeah, good for you, man.
Yeah, well, listen, this is something that I learned from reading a lot of Jordan Peterson. Wherever you abdicate responsibility, bad things will take its place.
Yeah. Yep.
And for me, it's like, okay, well, if we're going to have any type of good political system, maybe I should be looking into this.
Yeah.
So that's what
Kudos to that, man, for real.
to get me
Good for you, man.
involved.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the people inside the Conservative Party. They're good people.
Yeah.
There's lots of different views.
Of course.
There's,
That's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. I've got high hopes.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean...
Sure, I'll cross my fingers. I do think that, like, you're voting for either the left or the right leg of the same animal.
Mm-hmm.
And so... yes, same thing. I'm optimistic. I met with the Conservative in my riding, and he was looking to get votes or getting people to sign up for the Conservative Party so they can vote for him to be the leader of the riding.
Aaron O'Toole really messed up the last election.
Oh, what a wet noodle, man. What a wet noodle. And so, like, yeah, same thing, like good conversations, like really optimistic. And even he said, he's like, I went to the convoy, like I was downtown and I was handing out sandwiches and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, excellent, great.
Good.
Now, are you going to say that publicly when you are in front of a bunch of people instead of just the 10 people of us who are here for this meeting?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, is that, like, man, politicians are really good at saying one thing and then doing something else at the last minute. And so it's not that I don't think Pierre Poilievre might have it in him. He does. He maybe does. I met with Roman Baber. Actually showed up to one of my events. One of the women who was in...
That's a provincial MP from York.
Yeah, exactly. And, like...
That's been anti-lockdown right from the get-go.
Oh, yeah. And, like, we had a great conversation. And he said it clear as day, is that, like, if you're in political theater, if you just lay it all out on the table like that, like, you're out. That's it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear you anymore. We'll cut your mic off. And so it's a weird devil to dance with. That, like, politics has turned into this nasty thing where, like, they should be public servants, but my God, it's become the farthest thing from. I'm glad to hear that good people like yourself are trying to, I'm going to say, infiltrate the machine.
Well, listen.
And if there's going to be, like, real lasting change, then that's what this boils down to, is there needs to be more people who are, like, actively involved. And I will admit that, like, people approach me, they're like, oh, you should get into the PPC or you should get into politics. And I don't have it in me.
Yeah.
So I tip my hat to people like you.
Same for me. Like, I don't want to run. Like,
yeah.
I mean...
But even just be involved. Like,
yeah, being involved is huge. I've gotten to understand a lot more how it goes. Yeah, I think you touched on it just a little while ago. Maxim was saying all the things that we wanted to hear, but there was no way he was winning.
No, absolutely not.
You know, because he wasn't towing the line.
Yeah.
You know, he was just saying, hey, this is what it is. And, like...
And I like the idea of, like, white hats, and there are people who are trying to infiltrate this thing, and, like, suddenly it's going to all happen, and somebody will snap their fingers, and it'll all change, but...
No. You know... I think that if we look at the way the Charter of Rights was written, if they would have kept to it, which they did not,
yeah,
the freedom of assembly,
yeah,
the freedom of travel,
yeah,
without impediments,
yeah,
I mean, that's a pretty good document.
Yeah,
I mean, that makes sense to me, right?
Yeah,
but it was just trampled all over.
Well, and, like, yes, great document written with, I'm sure, positive intentions, but it's...
Once it became no longer convenient for them, then
and it doesn't, like, you can have things that are technically illegal, but if they're never enforced, then it doesn't matter. And so, like, you can have things that are illegal. Same thing, like, there were lots of calls to, like, arrest a lot of these politicians, and probably, yeah, there were some laws that were broken, but you got to convince a police officer to put handcuffs onto that person.
Yeah,
that's what it really comes down to.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why a lot of the police that were flown in to break up the Freedom Convoy were not from Ottawa.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, we've repeated a few times during this podcast, we can't think for other people. We don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
But my guess is that the Ottawa Police Service had boots on the ground.
They did.
And they knew what they were looking at. And when they were asked to break this apart, they were like, listen, these guys aren't doing anything wrong. I mean, it's their right to protest, isn't it? It's like, no, they're too successful. You know, their message is gaining too much momentum. We need to break them apart and trample some old ladies with horses, because that's okay to do.
Man, when I was downtown, I made it an absolute point to every time that I saw a police officer, I would go up and I would ask him, I'm like, listen, I'm not recording you, but, like, has anybody been violent with you? They're like, well, we haven't heard any of violence. I'm like, no, I'm not asking about whether you heard it on the radio. Has anybody been violent to you? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you keeping this place safe. Thank you. Have a good day. And they're like, man, thank you. And, like, I talked to tons of cops, and I knew some of them from back in the day while I was working in the bars, and, like, everybody was peaceful. They were all peaceful. And, like, they didn't say it on the news, but, like, I even asked a couple of them. They're like, yeah, honking stops around 11 p.m. and then starts around 7 a.m. But you had people like honking through the night, and I have PTSD from all the horns and stuff like that. And like, it really wasn't the way that it was portrayed. And if you get any police officer like in a closed room and he's not on camera, sure, they'll tell you exactly how it is.
They don't want to be.
But you put them on camera and they're like, nope, no comment.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I blame them for that either. So no, for sure there was a bunch of police officers who didn't feel good about it. And then I'm sure there was a bunch of police officers who were like, well, it's my job on the line and I have kids and I've got to pay for stuff. Not that they're about to go boot stomp somebody, but they're like, okay, well, I got to show up. Okay, guys, you need to clear out. It's just what it is. It's just them doing the job. Same as I had at least 2 bylaws officers that like, I filmed the whole thing, yada, 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 put it in your face, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, man, I'm going to put this away. Like, do you really believe that everything's going on? Do you really think there's a virus like wiping people out? And like, no, they're same thing. Once the cameras are off, everybody turns into human beings again.
Yeah.
So yes, there were police officers, and listen, same. I'm sure there were some like text messages that got released between the RCMPs or something like that, who were like relishing in the fact of like breaking through windows and stuff. And so there are some people like that. I saw that as a bouncer, that like some really normal people, and you give them a shirt that says security, and then suddenly they turn into dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are people who wear bad. I'm not saying all police officers are bad. Same thing. I have a couple friends and blah blah blah. But like,
majority of them.
But there are some who give them a bad name. Same as I think that there are some protesters who gave protesters a bad name.
Yeah.
Same as I think that there are some politicians most of them who give politicians a bad name. I think that there are doctors who make doctors look bad. Because same thing too. Like, our family doctor was like, "You don't want to get a vaccine? No problem."
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, same for ours. I mean, didn't push it at all.
Yeah.
I mean, he understood the 3 miscarriages and like the worries around that.
Yeah, of course.
And it's like, I remember listening to CBC and it's been tested for pregnant women. I'm like, guys, like, it hasn't been out for 9 months.
No.
I mean, it's
Yeah, exactly.
mathematically impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Mathematically impossible.
Oh, I keep telling people, like, go look at the history of thalidomide.
Yeah.
Like,
It's happened before. And I mean, we talked about it early on the podcast. Opioids, right?
yeah, exactly.
You know, it's safe. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's not addictive. And then
Or they're the anti-smoking med. They're Chantix. It just got taken off the market. Is a Pfizer drug, I believe. Might be Moderna, whatever.
Okay.
And like, it had something like 45,000 deaths associated to it or something. So they're now pulling it off the shelves.
and the penalties are less than the profit that they've made.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, maybe at some point that should change. You know, I'm not a litigious person, but I mean,
It's going to be hard to change when like these companies own the lawyers, own the politicians, own the, and that was one of the talks I had with a lot of people, that they're like, well, how could our government do this to this, and governments. Sure, we have like lines, like the borders and customs and that kind of stuff, and we divide ourselves up as like countries and stuff, like, but those aren't the biggest players in this worldly game anymore. There are a bunch of private companies that have way more money than any of these entire governments have. And so, like, no, the governments are just players. And so while we think that, like, well, politics will change things, yada, yada, yada,
Yeah.
that's not where the real evil is, though there are lots of evil politicians.
yeah, there's no need for like a conspiracy between all those politicians. Only thing that needs to happen is like interests need to converge.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you look at 3 companies, BlackRock,
Vanguard.
Vanguard and Street Capital,
Yeah.
you know, they own 88% of the S&P 500,
Yeah.
and they run
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah. And I think it was Jordan Peterson who was talking about it too, that there are people who, yes, I'm sure that there's a few evil people who have ill intentions, but looped into those, there are some scientists who genuinely wanted to come out with an mRNA technology that was going to change the world. There were some well-meaning scientists that maybe even they got told that they're going to work on a life-changing thing and you're going to help millions of people. We need you to just design this thing, and then they're going to take that and use it for evil.
Yeah, one of the inventors of the mRNA technology,
Yeah,
Robert
exactly.
Malone, said
Yeah.
that, hey, listen, this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
And as soon as he said it's not a good idea, he was immediately discredited as a kook.
Yeah.
You know,
Same as Michael Yeadon, right?
I don't know who that is.
Ex-chair of Pfizer.
Okay.
Same thing. He's been extremely vocal that like, he's like, this is the playbook that we do for like medicines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, this is you need to be scared about this. And same thing, turned into, labeled a kook and this, not extremist, but like this.
Very
just-
effectively too.
Well, yeah, listen, they've been doing it for a long time. And so like, so you think of like these companies that own 88% of everything stem from families that have acquired power, that have had power from power. And so like, you learn from your successes, and like, we like to think like, oh, the Charter of Rights is going to protect us. These people have been practicing how to do this a whole lot longer than like the 2 fucking YouTube videos that you've watched on like on how all of this stuff works. And so like, there are some families that have been in power of this globe for generations.
Yeah.
You don't think there's some like family secrets that they've passed along on like how to manipulate the masses? It is a massive uphill battle.
My advice to people is to become as unshakable as possible. And not only on the physical front, but also on the financial front.
Yep.
I think that if you're at the limit of your capacities financially,
Yep.
you can be forced into pretty much anything. So
Listen, full disclosure on that one. I'm going to plead guilty on one of my COVID, or on a few of my COVID fines, and I'm going to pay those fines because, yes, I fired the Rebel News lawyer because he wasn't going to fight for me. I spent a whole bunch of my personal money retaining my own lawyer who has fought for me, and I just don't have any more money to fight this. And so like, I'm going to take an L on this because if I had $1 million in the bank, yeah, let's keep doing this.
yeah,
And it has been incredibly tough, and I feel like that's
how
been,
much is the fine?
it's probably going to be about 10 grand all said in total, and then I'm going to have one more bill for my lawyer for, I don't know how much that's going to be either.
So you're just gonna say screw it,
I
pay
just
it.
because same thing, my lawyer is super honest. He's like, listen, if you want to keep fighting, no problem, we'll get some doctors up here, we'll take everybody's affidavit, like we'll do the thing. He's like, but then you're going to go to Superior Court, and if it gets kicked out of Superior Court, then you're going to end up paying all of those fines anyways, plus all the damages for all the other stuff too, and there's a super outside chance that you win because the whole system's rigged anyways. I'm like, man, yes, you're right, that all makes sense up here, but like,
in the heart.
oh God, I feel like a sellout. I won't even lie to you. And so yes, I understand what you're saying. And I think I have a whole bunch more appreciation for like all the like, all the professionals who are like, you need to get this shot in your arm or your job is on the line. That like, I was in a place that I had some finances and I had some people behind me and I had some people who gave to a GoFundMe and I raised almost 20 grand and like I spent that on lawyers and it kept me fighting. Yes. But like, COVID's not a hot topic anymore, and like there are a lot of GoFundMes out there, and all of those are good causes and good reasons and all those things too. But like, everybody feels spread thin. Our economy is shit. Like it's so I'm feeling the squeeze, and I'm gonna end up having to pay a couple of those fines, and I'm gonna lose this battle so that I can fight whatever the next war is. And I'll tell you at the same time, as much as I feel like a sellout, we're gonna be open for the climate lockdowns.
So you think that's the next thing?
Probably. Or it's going to be the global, like, we released a computer virus, or there's an AI that got on the loose and we're wiping everything out, and so we're going to some sort of digital lockdown or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, the World Economic Forum keeps on talking about a cyber attack.
Yeah, well, so like they had, what was it called? Event 201 was like the simulation of what would happen if there was a global pandemic, and then like, oh my God, 3 months later, something like that, there's a global pandemic.
That was in October of 2019.
Exactly, yeah.
There's probably a lot of people listening that are like, what the hell are these guys talking about?
Yeah, go Google it. Fact check me, I dare you.
Go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly. I dare you. Dive down there. There's fun stuff.
Go through your dark night of the soul.
Yeah, exactly. Don't actually, and you know what? Don't do it on Google. Go to like, even QWant isn't so great anymore, but there's another one called the SearX, SEARX. Same thing. Very like, here's actual results from the internet.
DuckDuckGo was bought out.
Yeah, exactly. I think Brave is another one.
A good one?
Yeah, a good one. Yeah. Yeah, use more than one search engine to look into some of this stuff.
Google is highly curated to the message that they find preferable.
Of course. And look at like Bill C11 or Google or Facebook now like blocking all the like news and stuff. Like,
isn't that C10?
I thought it was C11.
You might be right.
I could be wrong too.
Are you talking about the one?
The like internet censorship bill? Yeah.
So, okay, maybe we got to be out of here in 20 minutes. This is it's a
Keep
good,
it as a short rabbit hole then.
yeah, it's a great podcast, man, and maybe we come back in a few months and we have
I'm having a blast, man. Like,
I'll
it's just
follow up.
nice to be around somebody who's like-minded and like, and I have no problem like letting it out there. Here you go. Here's how I think.
So the bill C10 or C11, the one that has to do with online news outlets.
Yeah.
So it's in place.
Mm-hmm.
They were saying that they would never censor the news,
Mm-hmm.
and technically,
I think Facebook went out
They're
of their
right.
way.
Technically, they're right. It's not the government that's doing it.
Right.
They are asking Facebook to pay them,
Right.
pay the government
Right.
for any type of Canadian news
Right.
that is produced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Facebook said, okay, well, listen, we're just not sharing news
Yeah.
on Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
So now you got outlets like Rebel News is
Yeah.
blocked on Facebook.
Yeah.
True North
Yeah.
is blocked.
Yeah.
But also CBC
Yeah.
is blocked also.
Yeah.
So the government has their perfect excuse to say, hey, listen, even like we're being censored.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that CBC has other outlets.
Of course.
CBC has the radio. CBC has,
Yep.
you know, we used to get Channel 8 with the bunny ears. And now, like, I mean, they're on cable all over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rebel News does not have that.
Nope.
True North does not have that.
Nope.
I mean, they're highly, like, being censored.
Yeah.
And it's like they only want this one message out there.
Of course.
And it's so obvious
Yeah.
what's going on right now.
Well, I'll take a quick second to say that Druthers News, that does newspaper, just had their Facebook group banned for whatever the heck the reason was, and that is one thing that is very hard to censor is hard paper. And so, like, if anybody's watching this, go check out Druthers.
Yeah.
They give some very good news. They're definitely looking for donations because that's how they run everything. And like, it's really hard to censor something sitting in your door.
Yeah. And I've seen those at gas stations.
Oh, I
Yeah.
deliver them. I pick up bundles. Like I give them to a few of my friends. Like it's
Spreading the gospel.
yeah, exactly. Like the old school way to like guerrilla marketing. You know, like just drop it out of an airplane and then people will see it. Like
they're very good.
yeah,
Yeah, and they bring it to you. They don't sugarcoat it.
no, exactly.
I've had the chance to read. So can I order that newspaper delivered to my house?
Yeah, and so they're even doing a thing that you can go on and pay extra to then have that newspaper delivered to everybody in your area.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
Oh, that's smart.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about here?
I don't know the dollars, but go check it out.
Yeah,
Go check it
yeah,
out. Go
yeah.
check it out.
It's a good newspaper.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've had the chance. Okay, we need to wrap this up, man.
Fair. Yeah.
Listen, it's been a blast. And
Yes.
I just want to say again, thank you
Thank you. There's,
for the way you acted.
Yeah.
I know it's never easy going first,
Nope.
you know, and when I saw you stand up, it gave me the courage to start to speak up. So, I mean,
And I appreciate that. And so, like, that's been one of the things in thinking about that I am going to pay the fines on some of these things that, like, I hope, and it sounds like by talking to you and other people that I've at least pushed the snowball at least a little bit. And so maybe I'm going to get run over by the snowball a little bit and I'll have to pay whatever the fine might be. So be it. It is a small thing.
yeah, bro. Did
But
you
I-
see 300?
Exactly. And you know what? Like, not to say I want to take a bunch of arrows to the chest at the end of all of this, but like,
No.
sometimes what you have to do is you have to do what you think is right. And there were lots of times where I doubted whether or not I should keep doing this, but there was never a point where I doubted whether I was doing the right thing or not.
No, bro. You did the right thing, and I'm sure this is not the last fight, unfortunately.
No, like I said, so whatever, I'll pay these fines so we can get ready for the next one.
Exactly. And yeah, just know, man, that your bravery, it causes ripples and it encourages other people. So
Thank you. I
hats
appreciate
off
that.
to you.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right, man.
Anything you want to plug before we log off?
Come check us out. If you want to leave a 5-star Google review and push down some of those 1 stars, that would be great. A Foot Above Fitness, 1290 Trim Road, out in Orleans. Feel free to shoot me an email. The phone number is my own cell phone. You can shoot me a text. You can give me a call, whatever you like. I would love to help you be a better entrepreneur by being a better fitness person, by getting your health together, by changing your habits. And I love making people the best versions of themselves.
What's
And-
oh, sorry.
Nope, go for it.
What's the phone number?
613
Yeah.
864 2782.
Cool. I'll get some subtitles there.
Appreciate
going.
it.
Okay, bro. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do this again soon.
Absolutely.
Ciao.